Hello, everyone, and welcome to our checks numbers 57th stately
Wow.
office hours. I need to stop counting. We've had 34 this year, and more on everything else throughout the year later. This is where us, the team at Stately, tell you what we've been working on with the Stately Studio and on X State. Let's start off as we do every week with introducing the team. I'm Laura in the woolly hat because it's cold here in Ireland yet again. And I do advocacy for Stately. Next up, David.
Hey, I'm David, the proud founder and creator of XState and Stately. I messed that one up, but you get the idea.
And Anders.
Hi, I'm Anders, and I do software for Stately.
And Gavin.
Hi, I'm Gavin. I'm one of the other software guys at Stately, and I'm in Atlanta, US, so the jacket's more for style than anything.
And very stylish you are.
Stop.
And next up, Nick.
And I'm Nick, and I do product design at Stately.
And last but absolutely not least, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin, and I'm building fun stuff, software at Stately.
And why don't we ramp straight into some of the things that we've got to share with you? We've got quite a lot coming up soon, as we've got previews to share with you and also demos of things that have actually already gone live in the last week, because we were just packing in the features before the holidays. So how about Gavin? We haven't heard from you in a while. So why don't you tell us about something that you've been up to lately, Gavin, with the machine revisions?
Sure thing. Yes. So I've been in the mines, which is why you haven't seen much of me. Send help. No, it's been a lot of fun. I've been working on machine revisions and machine versioning. So in the studio, when you're working on a machine and sharing that specific machine with team members on your project, you will very soon be able to save individual versions of it and be able to step through those versions to see how your machines have evolved over time, as well as restore previous versions if you feel like you've made horrible decisions since maybe Thursday. So you want to go back in time and get back to a good place. We're also building in the ability to clone a previous version of a machine. So if you really liked the way something worked before, or maybe you want to use it as a jumping off point for another project, you'll have that functionality as well. So the good news is that everything on the back end looks really solid. We've been having a lot of fun poking and prodding at database level stuff to make sure it all works the way we expect it to work. And we're just building ahead for it now in the studio itself.
Fabulous. Yeah, one of the examples that I gave last week was it's if you're working on a machine with me and I end up messing it up, you'll be able to revert back to a pre-messed up version of it.
Exactly. So there's still a couple of things to work out, permission level things and stuff like that. But overall, the design is looking really great. Thanks to our very own Nick. Came through and killed it with the design, allowing the entire team to see and sort of work through it visually with Figma just to make sure everything feels the way it should. Yeah, that's rock solid at this point. We just got to tighten some bolts.
Oh, I'm so excited. I was saying just before we started that I want a demo of this feature because I want to be able to get my hands on it soon. I'm excited to see how the design works as well.
Definitely.
So speaking of great design, Nick, do you want to tell us a little bit about the colors that you've been working on? We've kind of mentioned it a little bit in some of the previous live streams, but we haven't been able to show it to anyone yet.
Yeah, this is something that I've been working on and off in between other things for, I don't know, I guess a couple months now. I mean, we started before the 1.0 release, just on it a little bit, and really been focused on it the past couple weeks. And I can actually give a quick demo if that sounds
Yes,
good.
please. Absolutely.
Let's see.
There we go.
Okay. So this is the current production version, and it looks pretty good. But a couple of the goals that we have for this color work that we've been doing is it really should. We'd really like it to have a much higher clarity. Like that's one of the ways I'm looking at it. That everything should be really clear whenever you come into it. Content should really stand out. So that's kind of one goal we have. Another thing is we want us to be able to support different colors for the state chart. So not just gray, but being able to make it, green for a success state, or, red or purple or whatever color you would like it to be. So one of the problems is, as you switch between these different colors, it's actually going to, it could easily, or if you're not careful, you could have contrast issues where in yellow, the white text might be almost unreadable, whereas, in dark gray, it'll be a really high contrast. So another goal we had is like the color system that we make should be predictable in code, so that like whenever we're working at the code level and we make some kind of substitution, then we can trust that it's going to behave correctly. And so we did a bunch of research into this and experimentation. And basically what this means, if you are not familiar, is we have to use what's called a perceptually uniform color space. So this is a color space like RGB, which we know from web development. Except this one is really modeled around human perception, or these kinds are modeled around human perception. So as you one of the goals there is, as you vary lightness levels of the different hues, you actually have consistent contrast. Just very interesting. So basically where we ended up was, you can see here is the current version. And then this is the current version on my dev branch. This is very much a work in progress. A lot of this might change before we release it. But you can see this is just the difference in the grayscale, where I view it as like kind of scrubbing a window, where not that this, like look out the window and it's not that it looks bad at all. You could say, oh, that's beautiful scenery. But then after you clean the window, you're like, oh, it's so much clearer now, so much more crisp and clear. So yeah, that's one of our goals here. But then another thing is the colors. So like this is again just a work in progress. But if we were to say for this current demo, right click here and set this color of playing to green, have it green. If we set the color to, let's say, red for stopped, let's see, let's go teal for paused, and let's say pink for closed. So now you have colors in the chart. And we really wanted these to be like vibrant, not really muted and kind of dull and dirty. Like we wanted it to be really vibrant and colorful. I mean, to me, I think one of the reasons is these colors in our app are going to be really used for signifying communication, quick understanding. And so like, I feel like it had to be easily identifiable, easily distinguishable among the different hues. And also we want it to be fun. So like non-engineers even might want to, dive into it and participate and be excited about using the tool. And then there's some other details, like currently experimenting with like some translucency on the toolbox over here. And, you get we're still working this out, but we're experimenting with this idea that for the data inside the states, that so basically data on the states, that what if we represented all of it inside the content area here? So not just there's this header area with a list of data, but it's actually inside, where just like children data is. We have a bunch of ideas around there, but you can see already it kind of gives you a really subtle indication of how the line connects. Like you wouldn't even consciously think about it, but I think it does help.
Totally does.
Yeah. So you can see just with this color work, it makes a big impact on how the charts present to your teammates, and even just being fun to work on, understand. So
yeah, it really draws you in. It makes it much easier to read and understand it. It's such a huge improvement. I think, as Cedric said, Laura's face is because I love this stuff. I find color really interesting, but I also just love seeing it applied in like such a clever way. I just think it's made all of the difference. I know this has been a huge amount of work for you, Nick. Like, to other people, it might seem like, oh, it's just like a small change to some hex colors or something, but actually the amount of work that goes into choosing these colors, making a palette that has that uniform perception across the different hues, and that is accessible as well, is so much work. And I just really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Yeah, I just noticed that someone asked, how does it look with an image inside the description? So I can actually show that for 1 second.
Dog
because
entry.
I have it right accessible right now. So I'll just go over to this one, which I was wondering that very same question yesterday. And basically it looks like this, where
Disco
you can see
dogs.
how, and now of course this is an image where it has a transparent background. If it did not, it would just have this like slight, at least as the current design is, it would just have this kind of slight gap like that.
Yeah. I can totally recommend to people, if you want to use images in your states, it's really helpful if you use SVGs, which these are, and then you can layer transparency in, and you can also zoom in forever, and you will have really perfect vectors. So using SVGs is really cool.
This is so exciting. The images combined with the colors. I mean, for me, at least, like looking at the compounded states, the parent state and things like that just adds so much weight to exactly where you are. It's so cool to see.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention, there was a question in the chat, how are the state colors, British spelling, specified in the code? And so this is one of the reasons why, we're taking our time on this and evaluating how we're best going to represent this, both in the diagram and in the code, because just like with layout data, we want to balance your machine as code not being too big. Obviously, layout data, colors, those really don't matter in the code implementation, but they matter a lot in the diagrams. So, we're experimenting, especially with our upcoming GitHub integration, on, config files or things like that, where that's where that extra metadata about, your state machine lives. And yes, tags also come into play too. And so that's why, we want to have a feature where, for example, all the states with this tag get this color, all of the transitions with this tag or, this metadata get that color. So it really feels like styling a style sheet instead of just adding arbitrary colors to your diagrams.
Yeah, that's what Horacio says here. Adding the color value to the machine opens the possibility to add other types of metadata, which is powerful stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really great to be able to have that color associated with meaning, and maybe to be able to communicate that meaning in a different way if color isn't your thing, and or if you can't perceive it in the same way as other people, then that could be really useful for accessibility. She says, harping on about accessibility as usual.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Now, Horacio also said earlier, what would be dope to filter what's visible depending on the data, the color or the layer, and that would make it easier to give some depth to a machine diagram. And this is kind of, I guess, falls under the focus mode ideas that you've been looking at, Nick.
Yeah, and this is a great idea. And like just being able to, use color as one of the ways of exploring the chart. I think this also goes along, I don't know if we've mentioned this in an office hours, but we're currently doing work on a command palette. So this could, very much tie into some kind of interactive flow with a command palette.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, this really goes to show that we're trying to make the diagrams you create become alive, because honestly, it's easy enough to create a diagram and software for creating diagrams where it's like, add any arbitrary color you want. But we have a lot of additional challenges. So a couple of these challenges are making sure that these colors have high contrast, are accessible, and also look good in both light mode and dark mode. So you want to just be in the happy path of having a really good looking diagram from the beginning, but also just like weather diagrams, like you see weather people doing on TV, colors can change. Like the map might stay the same, but you want to display different types of visualizations based on what you're doing. For example, you might want to display a heat map based on some sort of backend state machine workflow. Or you might want to explain different parts of the state machine, and that's where colors come in.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, David. If you weren't gonna, I was gonna just come in and talk about the fact that, if you're thinking about it from a backend perspective and you've got several potential paths for a workflow to take, and you wanted to really illustrate to whomever, other collaborators, maybe, business decision maker, what are the most popular places that users end up, or what are the least popular, right? Having colors to represent that is just super easy to communicate. Nick did not take my suggestion that we should have particle effects, but I think it's still on the chopping block, right? We can push it in another update.
Yeah,
maybe terminal
confetti
green.
for success
I do like
mode.
Yes,
Oh,
I'm here for the
absolutely.
Hacker Man green color scheme as well.
Oh yeah, we saw that. We got a little preview of this, and there was like a Matrix-like feeling. It was super cool. Maybe for April Fools, we'll see.
Yeah, with all of the numbers in the background as well, scrolling past. So further on to other really exciting, often requested features, Kevin, would you talk to us a little bit about exporting to external editors? This is exciting.
Yeah, it is really exciting. Thank you. Sure, I'd love to talk about that. So as a reminder, in the last couple of months, our teammate Farzad has actually demonstrated the ability to export your machines as code, and also, of course, to import them into new machines. And all of this really expands the usefulness of Stately Studio in your broader workflow, right? You may already have code somewhere else. You might want to see something working somewhere else. So what we're able to do now, I'm working on this now, is to export to external editors. So let me share my screen and give you a little demo of this. This is going to be a preview demo. So this is actually from my local, let's see, 1 second. My local
They
branch.
keep
Okay,
changing these share screen dialogues that make it impossible to do it instantly. There we go. Fabulous.
Okay, can you see this? Okay, hold on. I'm going to just move this over so I can still see some of you. Okay. Okay, so if you remember, we have this export up here, and now we have a sort of a slightly enhanced modal, let's call it, where we're able to still do the exporting. So I'm sorry, the copying. So we can actually choose a format, a code format, and once you do that, you can copy to clipboard. Of course, you can choose a different language and do that as well. But now what we're able to do is, if you do choose anything other than JSON, so for example, JavaScript, we're able to open this up in Code Sandbox. So we are actually exporting your machine, and we open up your machine in Code Sandbox. And let's take a little look at what we have here. Sure, let's see. So first of all, we can start with the machine.js. And you see we have your machine in all of its glory. You can also just like save this and it'll prettyfy that thing. And then of course we also have, let's say, an app file, which basically has this is React. So we can, talk about supporting other libraries as well, such as Svelte and Vue and other things. But right now we're starting with React. And this is let's say, some sort of a working prototype or simulation mode of your code. And so as such, you can click through your machine, you can navigate between states, you can click and simulate the events, you can even reset. Okay, well, I just sort of reset itself. You can reset the machine, you can see the context, and that's pretty much what we have in terms of those files in this working mode. Now, if I go back here, then what I can also do is share, let's say I choose TypeScript and I choose Stacklets. We can show how we can do that. And we also get the same thing, but this time with some TSX files and TypeScript files. And we're still working on some of the type errors here, but you get the idea. And then one other bonus here, I guess, is that if you happen to have a machine that has some timers, then you could. Oh, and by the way, I can also show you that you can export from this menu as well. Then you can do that, and if you do that, then you actually end up with an automatically running machine here. So there's some timers here. You can simulate the power outage and power restore. So you can actually kind of interrupt that as well. And yeah, navigate through there. So that's pretty much what we have for this exporting. The couple last things to mention is that, of course, this is great because let's say that you start out by creating machines in Stately Studio, so they don't actually have anywhere to run yet. So this is a quick way to get this, out the door, so to speak, to put together some actual running code, and to quickly bring your application or so your machine to life. And of course, the code is, you can either throw that code away if you want to, or you can sort of, tap into it and edit it and actually turn it into your real application. You can change the styling. And in the future, maybe an idea would be to even be able to modify the machine there now that you see everything working, and then perhaps even go back and send that back to the studio so that you can still maintain it in your projects at Stately Studio. So I think that's it.
Oh, I think you've blown minds in the comments here. Cedric says, if the project manager understands it's this simple to dev, we're all dead. Yeah, it's amazing. I didn't even realize that you were going to have the ability to simulate inside of those examples as well when you export. And that's extra cool. That just opens up the possibilities and just makes it so easy to just be able to share everything with your team too.
Yeah, and on that note, Joseph Fritz was talking about having a focused mode, and you sort of saw a preview of that there, where in the exported code, which has no other dependencies other than XState and some framework-specific adapters, such as XState React, that was a focus mode. You weren't seeing the entire machine. You were only seeing the current states and maybe some parent states and events that you could trigger on those states. And so that's something that, we were exploring there. That's a... I guess you could call it a tentative design, like what we're exporting to Code Sandbox and StackBlitz. But it's something that we're also going to be thinking about in the editor as well, just to make it simpler to see a subset of the machine, what you want to focus on most, rather than the entire machine all at once.
So cool. It's so cool. It's so capable. God, you've done so much in this last week, Kevin. I can't believe how much you get done.
Really fun.
Last week, Anders, you spoke very briefly about recovery mode, and this week you said you might give us a demo?
Yeah, I'd like to give a demo. Yeah, so we had some good feedback from Martin, who's also here today in the chat. And we've built this restore functionality where sometimes, or well, hopefully not sometimes, hopefully never, but you could end up in like this bad situation where you go and you try to edit a machine, and clearly here we have a very broken machine. It's Santa's broken delivery machine. We can't reach Christmas time. It's an unreachable state. Everything's done. The sleigh is packed, the reindeers are fed, and we're ready to go. So what needs to be done before Christmas time is obviously just to deliver the packages. And whoops, something's up. I'm now getting this toast here saying that I'm offline, so we can't save your machine. But now we'll actually try to store a local copy if you end up in either an offline state or in the offshot that our backend is offline or is just erroring in some way. We're also trying to show better status updates up here. So now it's saying I'm offline. So let's see what happens if I go back online and come back to this same machine. And fingers crossed that now we'll see this restore offline machine modal, because the Stately Studio recognized that I'm trying to work on a machine where I actually have an offline copy that's different from what the server has in its state. And you can see the server state is in the background, so the Christmas time is still unreachable. And I can, if I know I don't want the offline copy, I can just delete it, but I can also say, yes, restore whatever was saved offline into a new machine. And now we can see the deliver packages change I made is now saved and stored on our servers again. So, yeah.
Fabulous. No worries now about working offline by accident.
Hopefully not. It's probably not entirely waterproof, but we're iterating on this, trying to make it better. We've done it in a way right now which should support the cases where if you get locked out because you've been away from your machine for so long, or you go offline or something else happens, we should catch all those situations. Hopefully. Yeah, and one more thing is that I think last week we showed we can now copy image URLs from machines. So let's say I want this Santa delivery machine as an image. I can copy and I can paste, and I get this nice PNG I can share with my team. And a new thing is that this actually supports the 2 color modes. So if I go into snow mode and copy a new image URL, I'll get the snowy screenshot instead.
And this has been a feature that I personally requested because in the docs, I like having the screenshots sync with the color mode you've got chosen for viewing the docs. And this is perfect so that I can sync my screenshots and get them directly from the machine URLs. It's made my job so much easier and faster.
And there's been 2 silent updates along with this. We have had some requests for making the visualizer screenshots higher resolution, and we've bumped those up 4 times, I guess, in size. At least we've set like the pixel density twice. So also the visualizer machines are better now. And now instead of just storing like an image cache for 3 hours like we did before, we actually store the image cache for as long as the machine is unchanged. So it should be really fast to get the images now.
Yeah, it's great. I've been playing with it, and it's just so satisfying being able to have these images. It's going to be really useful in the GitHub integration as well. I think that this is working towards that feature, so that you'll be able to have your images in GitHub as well. And that's something I actually wanted to mention to you, Anders. I may as well say it during the stream. That I think that we could also GitHub supports light mode and dark mode for images too. So we could make use of this new light mode in the integration as well.
Yeah, we should be able to. We're aiming for it at least.
Yeah.
I'm going to start shipping my end of day updates just in these images from here on out.
Perfect.
Yes.
I've made that decision.
Yeah, state charts for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as Joseph it says, would love to get images of machines generated with every Git commit. I think your wish may well be our command in the future. Yeah, PR's also a really good use case for that. Absolutely. Oh, I can show you. I mean, it's not using these particular screenshots, but what I can share with you is how the screenshots are looking in the docs right now. Let me find my many millions of windows that I have open right now so I can show this to you. And so this is a preview of the new Stately docs. And I am hoping that, I know I've been talking about it for a very long time, at the beginning of next week, these will be available in beta for you to play with. And so at the moment, this is the dark mode version. But if I go to light mode, oh, my image is broken. Oh no. Okay, broken images. But if I'll go to a different page. I've got some. Oh, my images are broken. Oh, you know what? That's what happens when you stop running your machine, your site locally. That of course the images break. Let me just start that dev server very quickly.
I will mention that the alt text is awesome. Like that's a good demonstration of it.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you get me, you'll get good alt text, or at least attention paid to the alt text, whether it's good or not. There we go. So now we have screenshots, and if you're in dark mode, your screenshots will show in dark mode, and they will show the editor in their corresponding dark mode. And so this is a preview of our upcoming docs. We have information about how to do everything that you want in the studio, all of the concepts that you want to learn about. We've also got tutorials on those example machines and links directly to the example machines so you can play with them yourself in the studio too. And we have a huge section on XState, which features detailed tutorials to get you started with XState as well. Information about our tools and all sorts of other stuff too. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to unleash that on the rest of you next week and get all your feedback, and you can tell me what's missing, what you'd like to see in there as well, if you notice any issues. And we can then iterate and make these docs as great as we possibly can and help you all get started. Cedric asks, is it Gavin's dog? I'm
It looks like it.
Which dog? Oh, did Lucy come to say hello and I missed it?
Oh, yes. She decided that now during this call was time for a lap nap. I'm happy to call the stately dog Lucy in that case. Yeah, that's fine.
Absolutely. I'll name it after Lucy for sure. Yeah, she's a great dog. She deserves representation inside of the studio.
Can confirm 11 out of 10 dog.
Cedric says it would be super cool to have more information with spawn machine and communications between them. I'm assuming that's inside of the docs. That's certainly something we can work towards. I think we've got a little bit in there right now, but we can certainly add more. If you do have any requests for the docs, that we do actually have a dedicated board for documentation in our Canny roadmap at statelyai.canny.io. So that's where you can put in any feature requests to do with anything to do with Stately. We have dedicated boards for the studio, for examples, for documentation. So if there's anything that you want in there, please post a feature request. You can also upvote other people's feature requests on there, which gives us an idea of how popular they are and how we should prioritize them too. And if you do post a request on there, you will also get updated if we plan to integrate that feature, but also if we are working on it and when it's complete. That gives you little email updates, which is very useful if you want to keep an eye on that particular feature. Now, there was, last but absolutely not least, we have David. Do you want to tell us a bit more about what Stately has done in the last year? Like, bring our year to a nice close. Take us out with a bang.
Sure. So as you all know, this is our last office hours of the year because, we're going to be on winter holiday. It's New Year's and Christmas and all of those sorts of holidays. And so I really briefly just want to go over everything that's happened this year. And this isn't going to cover everything. We have done just so much. But yeah, so first of all, our team, we grew the team from, I don't know how many, 5? Yeah, 5 to 10 and then to 9. We had the awesome TypeScript wizard, Matt Pocock, on the team. A few months ago, he left to do his own thing, and now he actually has his own TypeScript course, which is doing really well. So I recommend you check that out. He's been a huge contributor to both XState and a lot of the Stately work that we've done. We've also introduced a few more people to the team. We have Gavin, who joined, I think, in February. And we also have Honors, Nick, and Kevin, who joined as well. And so we are so glad that they joined. This is a picture of us in Copenhagen at our offsite retreat that we had in July. So really fun times. I think someone said a joke, and this is genuine laughter, I promise. Yeah. And also, we had a bunch of launches. In fact, when I was asking for what we launched and the features we launched, it was just a ton of stuff. So this is just a subset of that. Of course, we launched the Stately editor earlier this year. Also, we launched TypeGen. Matt was behind a lot of that. And you may not know this, but we actually did silently release an XState v5 alpha just for people to start kicking the tires with it. The syntax is very close to XState, and we are working towards a beta and eventually a final release. We also introduced the XState CLI, so that you could use TypeGen with whatever other editor IDE that you're using. We also introduced recently in October Stately Studio 1.0 and Stately Studio Pro. So Stately Studio 1.0 is basically the culmination of all of our efforts from Stately Editor Beta as well as the Stately Registry, just getting all of those together and building a solid platform for you to communicate with your entire team and share diagrams and app logic. And Stately Studio Pro is if you have a team, it's the best way to do that. And also, we want to thank everyone who has signed up for Stately Studio Pro. We are going to be adding a lot more pro-only features. But with that said, the Stately editor is going to be free for public and open source use. So that's not going away. We've also had a bunch of Xstate VS Code extension updates, especially recently. Mateusz on the team, he released a new version of the extension, which solves a lot of the problems of the older version. It's faster, it's offline first, and yeah, it's just a huge improvement. We do have the new docs, as Laura mentioned, coming soon, which addresses a lot of the feedback over the last few years about just how do you learn Xstate and the usefulness of state machines and state charts, and also how do you use the studio. And of course, also a partridge in the pear tree. Again, there's so many updates here. That's not my joke, by the way. I think that's Honor's joke. But yeah, it's just way, way too many to list. And of course, we have a lot of things coming soon. First of all, we are working towards a GitHub integration. You saw some previews of that today. We're also working towards more rich diagramming features. Nick previewed some of that today, but we also want to just make this a full-blown diagramming tool that, of course, can translate your app logic that you design very quickly into code. And speaking of just collaboration and more features, we have multiplayer mode that's coming up next year. We've experimented with that, and so we're really excited to hit the ground running with that next year, where you could share a state chart and have many people working on it at the same time. Also, machine revisions like Gavin talked about. This is going to be really exciting because this isn't just your normal, Git feature where it's like, hey, this file changed, go figure out all the lines of code that changed. But now it's really describing what changed at a feature level. So at a level that not only developers can understand what changed, but the rest of the team can too. So we're bringing, I guess, these logic changes more to a human level so that everyone can understand it. We're also going to be adding commenting, which sort of goes along with multiplayer mode. More static analysis. You might have noticed those question marks and the orange question marks and warnings and errors that you've seen in your machines, which guide you towards creating better machines. And so we're going to be adding a lot more of those analysis features. We're also working towards Xstate version 5 beta. We do have a few outstanding PRs for that. And so hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have those PRs merged in and we could get a solid V5 beta out in January. And also Xstate Test V1, it's been on the back burner for a while, but it's something that we would love to release next year. And a bunch of other things. Smarter auto layouts, so you could even auto layout parts of your machine instead of the entire machine. Embedded machines, so you could share them anywhere. Having the editor as an inspector, so you don't have to have both Stately Viz and Stately Editor. Those are going to be unified under one tool. And of course, tons of tutorials and examples. And this is, just a few of the things. There's just a lot more things, and we can't share all of them quite yet. So that's why we want you to just keep watching these office hours, and we'll give you hints and tips. And yeah, just give you a little teaser of what we're working on in the future, especially for some of the back-end workflow stuff that we've been talking about. In terms of stats, you all have created over 17,000 public machines. Yeah, and you can look at this at stately.ai/registry/discover. These are all kinds of machines for the front end, back end, even some chat bots. I saw like a chess simulator in there. Like this, there's so many wild ideas in there, and it's awesome to see that there's 17,000 public machines. Now I say public because the stats for the private machines, we have absolutely no idea, and that's something that we take pride in. The Xstate VS Code extension, all of those machines are never stored on our database and on our servers. Instead, the Xstate VS Code extension really just helps you with the local machines that you're working on in your own project. So we never get to see any of them. And so our estimate is that there's actually probably even more private machines than public machines. So it's just really exciting to see. And with the GitHub integration, we're going to make that part a lot more useful. And so speaking of just engagement from the community. We started off the year with about 1,000 registered users to Stately Studio, and now we are at over 12,000 users who have signed up and started playing around with the editor and looking at machines. And it's just been so exciting to see how many of you are actually playing around with our tools. Speaking of community, we have there's just so much inspiration from the entire community doing really interesting and unique things with Stately, from talking at conferences to making cool explorations. Yeah, so there's just a lot here. You could just scroll through our Twitter and see just examples of all the different things that you all are doing. It's really, really cool. And also, we do still have some more shirts, so find us at conferences, or maybe talk to us and we'll send you out swag. So yeah, but overall, we want to thank you all for being part of the Stately community, and we wish you a wonderful transition into 2023.
Woo!
Yes, that's so exciting. We're having people getting excited in the comments as well, saying we're getting so close to visual PR diffs, and visual PR diffs would be possible with machine images. Yeah, absolutely. And can't wait for the test package to support invocations. Auto-generated tests are the future.
For sure.
And even VR state machines. I mean, why not? Everything's state machines. We could be inside the state machines ourselves.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and so the visual PR disc that a few of you all have talked about, that's something that I'm actually really excited about. So it's sort of combining Gavin's and Honor's work, because honestly, when you look at a PR, there is little indication of what actually changed with the app, like what features were touched, etc. But once you generate machine images, you have a GitHub integration, and you have machine revisions and are able to compare different versions of a machine, then it becomes possible to communicate changes such that everyone can understand. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely huge. So the next office hours we have will be on January 20th, so a little while away. So we'll maybe even have some more exciting things to share with you already by then. Anders, you wanted to very briefly mention some potential downtime.
Yeah, so tomorrow morning we're getting some help, or I say tomorrow morning because it's European time. Tomorrow around 8 UTC, Superbase is going to help us upgrade, or they are going to do it themselves, but they're going to upgrade the Stately Studio, which runs on Superbase right now, but we run on like an outdated version. Things move fast also in the Superbase world, so they're trying to help us get up to a new version. So we're doing it to get an even safer Stately Studio for you, so it's going to be even more watertight. So if you experience some downtime tomorrow morning, it's intended. We are sorry for the inconvenience. We should be quickly back again.
But I imagine that most of you will be asleep anyway.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Did anyone on the team have anything else that they wanted to share this week, or anyone in the comments have anything that you wanted to ask us before we wrap up 2022? I mean, let's face it, there was a huge amount in that stream. I think my mind is blown, and I've had a preview of most of this. So thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here every week. Office hours, as David mentioned, will always be the first place that we share previews, we share what's coming up, and we share what we're working on. You are our number one. We really appreciate the community that we've got here. And so you will always be the first to know. Thank you so much for joining us in 2022. And we look forward to seeing you in 2023. So have great holidays if you get to have holidays. Stay safe and stay warm. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.